Yeah, this is my 11th book, and I started with a series, but then I'd been writing standalones for a number of years, and I always look for a new challenge with each story to sort of make things more fresh for me. And one of the ways I could freshen this up, I thought, was by going back to a series character. So that was the goal with Last Words. Yeah, Mark Novak is a private investigator who's sort of haunted by the crime he wants to be working on, which is the unsolved murder of his own wife. And he's been sent to Indiana from Florida to work on another case that he really doesn't have that same desire to solve because he's so distracted. So his struggle in the book is an evolution of sort of learning how to care about another case again. You know, it's what I've always wanted to do. I was a huge reader growing up. My parents were big readers. Reading for pleasure was something that everyone in my family did, and I fell in love with books at an early age, and it always seemed like if you could possibly make a living doing it, it was the best gig in the world to me. So, you know, I think it's just the emotional suspense. I love that those moments where your heart's beating a little bit faster, and you're feeling maybe the book's making you a little nervous, and you're racing through pages because you're really worried about the characters. At that point, you're emotionally connected to the characters, and as a reader, that's what I love. So if I can do that as a writer, then I'm thrilled with that. Okay. I always wrote on a computer. I was sort of the first age where typewriters were not a part of my life. I grew up with computers, so I do a lot of research. For Last Words, it involved caving, hypnosis, just all sorts of different things. One of the things I love about research is it gives me the chance to go out and see the world from another person's point of view and experience their expertise. Place, I would say. I'm inspired to write books by places that interest me. For example, there's an old hotel with all sorts of folklore and legends that was reopened, and so that one book came from that. And another, it was a backpacking trip in Montana, and I loved that area, so that became a book. So it's really been place more than anything else. And outline it. There are times when I think it'd be great and it would really make things easier, but I only really see about 2 or 3 chapters out in front. The hardest thing about writing, I think, this one was being aware that because I was going to come back to this character, whatever I created about his backstory, it was going to have to hold up in future books. So it was sort of thinking about the long term while worrying about the short term as well. It's a great question. When I'm traveling, I love ebooks because I can have an entire library with me and not have to lug the books around. If I'm just at home, I prefer traditional books then. That's a tough question because I have so many. There are so many writers who were influential to me. Stephen King, Dennis Lehane, Michael Connelly, Raymond Chandler, James Lee Burke were all major influences. A guy named Daniel Woodrell. Books that I'm reading right now that I'm really enjoying. Been reading some humor essays by a woman named Sloane Crossley, and I think she's really funny, really good. So I try and read. I'm reading all the time. I try and read in a lot of different directions too. You know, that's if I could answer that question, I would have many jobs in publishing because it's tough. You know, there's some great books that just fall off the map, and then there's some other books that maybe aren't as well written that do really well. So that question of what connects with the audience, I don't have a good answer for it. I think as a writer, the worst thing you can do is really worry about the audience. If you just stay focused on the story and doing your job as a writer, I've always hoped that the cream rises approach works, and if you write a good enough book, it will find an audience. Best book I've ever written? In terms of pace and I guess maybe Those Who Wish Me Dead, my favorite is probably The Cypress House. So that's a tough question. I don't know. Never trust a writer about his own work. The advice I would give to anyone interested in writing is to read a lot, and not just in the genre that you like the most. You need to read in a wide-ranging area, and I also think that reading interviews with writers can be a big help, because it gives you an idea of how they go about their process, and it's an education in itself.